Hello, thank you for watching. Today I wanted to talk about the generating power from the legs. What's required in terms of the structure and the technique and the training to generate power from the legs and apply it through when we're practicing internal styles of martial art. And to do that, what we're going to start with is looking at Xingyi, because Xingyi has a very characteristic launching power, a springing power, so that we can cover off a large distance very effectively, very quickly. The way that that's done in Xingyi is that we have the Xingyi structure, which is back weighted here, and then from the structure here, we launch off the back leg, coming onto the front leg, and then launch off the front leg. So with 2 steps from here, we can cover a fair bit of distance relatively quickly. And of course, part of this is because of this structure where we're pushing off the back leg, getting a little bit of extra distance off that front foot, and then from there, coming onto that front foot and driving through with that second step. But in addition to that, there is the alignment and structure through the hips and the legs that creates a spring. So this is the part that I want to get into. And then we'll see how that is actually being applied, same concept applied in different ways with also Chen style Tai Chi and Bagua. So what we have when we're thinking about the legs and Xingyi is from this basic structure here, there's an additional aspect or 2 additional aspects to it, which is first that the legs, the upper legs, actually rotate in. For the upper legs to rotate in, we have to relax the hip and literally take the legs and rotate the thighs in. We don't want the knees to collapse. We need to brace them out so that there is this stabilizing of the lower leg. And what they say traditionally is that the upper leg, the thigh, rotates in, while the lower leg, the calf, rotates out. Which means essentially that instead of having everything go all knock-kneed, not so good, we have it where it rotates in, but we keep the knees braced out, right? The second thing is that we set down into the leg. So rotate, relax the hips, set down, feel the weight get put more into the feet. So instead of being on your legs, you should be into the legs. This basic little detail is like a spring, literally. If you have a piece of wire and you take it and you coil it around and around and around, you create a spring, right? But the structure of the spring, the way that it generates the force is not from it is because of the coil, but it's not by coiling, it's by pressing down, right? This way, so that you can press the spring and then it generates force which pushes back. And so that's the generation of force that we're interested in. And so with Xingyi, of course, their main interest is to drive forward or to fall back. And so we take that spring concept here and then we can apply it for that launching power going forward, and also take that same generation of force here, that coiling and setting into the leg, to launch back as well. So the basic drill for this is just what I was just doing. We have our weight set up with 1 foot forward, other foot back. Weight 66.667% more on the back leg, with a small angle, less than 45 degree on the back leg. So instead of it being here, we have it, and instead of it being parallel, we have it back leg turned out slightly. Those are basic details for Xingyi stance. And then from there, set into the leg, rotating the thigh, closing the hip, and anchoring our weight further into the ground. From there, we're pushing against both legs. So the back leg is pushing, trying to push us forward. The front foot is pushing, trying to push us back. So from here, to move forward just a little bit, all we have to do is lift the front leg. And by the same token, from here to move back, all we have to do is lift up the back leg. One of the key things with this is that when we have launched forward that little bit, we need to reset the structure. So instead of being here, launch forward, and then just standing there, we need to immediately set back into that coiled stance, that set up spring. So from here, relax into the hip, close the hip, set down into the heel, and then from there, lift the front foot, lift the back foot. Lift the front foot, set into the spring, lift the back foot. That's the basic drill. That's something that at beginning, the muscles you'll feel it in the muscles quite a bit, using the muscles, and partly because the muscles don't get a chance to relax. You want to keep them set into that pressing and coiled posture as much as possible, not letting it off. But as the muscles get used to it, as it becomes stronger, then it's easier to hold that structure. And of course, with Xingyi, we take that structure to use it and the power that gets generated from the legs in this to launch herself forward and to launch herself, if required, back, but mainly forward because it's Xingyi. Bagua also has a similar closed hip, closed leg kind of structure. One of the differences is that from this kind of structure here, we're still closing the leg, is that closing continues through into the lower leg, into the ankle, into the foot, so that from here, we're using that same generation of power, but not to launch forward, but to change the direction to here. Right? So using the same qualities, same idea, same coiled spring-like quality, generate force, but this time the force is being used there's many things, but certainly one of the key things is to coil and those facing from one way to face the other direction. With all of the styles, it comes from the legs, but because of how the structure of the style is developed, then you use it to apply that force or direct that force through to the rest of the body. So with Bagua, we're coming through and we're changing the direction, but at the same time we can coil that motion through the body here to come through the body and into the arms. It's a similar concept with something like Chen style Tai Chi. Most practitioners practicing Chen style Tai Chi, it'll look completely different because the structure is actually the opposite. For Chen style Tai Chi, we have the legs rotated out, not in. And then from there, we close the lower leg. So instead of standing with our toes splayed out like this, we keep the upper leg, the thighs, rotated out, but then we close the lower leg so that we have a proper horse stance. And we also have this coiled structure of the leg set into the leg. And that is allowing us to generate force through, and again with Chen style Tai Chi, it's this kind of figure of 8 motion, shifting the weight, turning into the hip. But that comes from the legs, so that we're coming through from here, generating the force from this leg, coil. When it uncoils, comes through the body to here. Set back, coil back into that leg. When that uncoils, comes into here. So the key to that is to figure out how to set the hip properly, how to set into the legs, and make use of the force that's generated. And then with each style, how it gets applied varies. In broad strokes, and then of course within Xingyi, within each style, say Xingyi, depending on the posture, depending on the application, the generation of force, how it gets applied will also vary a little bit. It's not only for launching, but talking about it in this way, so that for Xingyi it's about getting yourself to leap forward, to launch forward, whereas Bagua is to change direction. For Tai Chi is to have this coiling, flowing motion. It helps us to understand how it gets applied in different ways. Of course, there's more details, but that comes with the deeper study of each style. Oh, with Tai Chi, I did want to mention the reason I think quite clear for this kind of structure, the opposite structure, has everything to do with the difference between Xingyi being a striking style martial art and Tai Chi being a grappling style of martial art. So you want, with a striking kind of martial art, something that launching power that allows you to close a distance and to power a strike. With Tai Chi, where it's mainly around grappling and takedowns, then what you want to be able to do is you want to disrupt the foundation, the stance of your opponent. So one of the ways that you can do that is coming through either with the foot and or the leg or the thigh, moving into your opponent's stance. So you step into the stance here. I'm on the receiving end of it on this side. The person steps here and knocks this inwards. So from a stance like this, someone applying pressure through to here, and then any grappling takedown type technique requires very little effort. So disrupting the stance, disrupting the foundation is one of the reasons for having this kind of open hip structure in many styles of Chen style Tai Chi. Come back now to that basic drill, coming from Xingyi, but I think useful for all of the styles, which is simply to find from a basic back-weighted structure here, close in to the hips, rotate the thighs in, brace the knees out, press the legs forward and back, and then from there you can test whether or not you have the dynamic coiled quality by lifting up the front foot to launch forward and lifting up the back leg to launch back. Remember, every time you've finished the move, maintain that coiled dynamic stance through so that you can apply the forward and back motion at any moment in time. You don't have to reset, you land and you're already set. So the basic idea is you need to understand the requirements of the style you're practicing, but pay attention to the structure through the hip and the leg to understand how it's generating power, especially with using this coiled concept and the set down into a spring. And then from that, understanding through the structure of the rest of the body, the frame of the style, how that force then gets applied according to the technique and according to the style. So I hope that information is helpful for you. Keep learning, keep practicing, and take care.